second? Who's second? Philip knows.
Okay. Ooh. Like this. So are we ready to start again? Yes? Can we try again the applause thing? It works well. So when I do this, you do all applause. Yes, let's start again! Yeah, let's go! Okay, let's start with our first speaker. So I met Kenny 5 years ago because he was very busy with the big data community. And I was starting like the data science community, which was more business related than technical. And we all had doubts of, how would that work? And I'm so proud and so happy to have Kenny here to go into depth and to talk about technical issues. And so I'll leave the floor to you, Kenny.
Okay, thank you. I'm not going to be too technical. I'm mostly going to show you some use cases about how you can run TensorFlow on the edge. So I'm from In the Pocket. We're a digital product studio in Ghent. We're about 100 software engineers and we build digital products, for instance, Payconic by Bankcontact or My Coreruit for Coreruit. These are some of the clients we're working for. We're taking an AI-first approach into many of our digital products. And then buzzwords, what does that mean? For us, AI-first is about, it enables us to better understand our users that make use of the digital products that we're building. And more specifically, we mainly see computer vision, natural language processing, and data mining as ways to better understand our users in their applications. And as the understanding grows, we can better support them, we can give them advice, recommendations. That's the framework we work in. So our goal is, whatever technology we're using, we try to better understand our users to create better experiences. So what does that mean? So I just brought some examples of this talk was titled Running TensorFlow on the Edge, I think, right? So it's a couple of examples on where we've been training TensorFlow models, and we've actually deployed them onto a mobile phone or on an edge TPU on an iPad. So, and these all make use of TensorFlow Lite. So one example, I have to Google Slides here. Product we made for Telenet, it's for self-service. So it's an AR application, not AI, wherein people are guided on how they can install their set-top box. And when we were user testing this, one of the main feedbacks we got was that many people don't know what an HDMI cable is. I know it, most of you know it, but thousands of people who need to install a set-top box don't know what an HDMI cable is. So we trained a TensorFlow model. I'm going to next slide here. It's what it is that you think it is. It's an image classifier that's able to recognize HDMI cables, coax cables, power cables. And this allows us to understand what cable the user is holding. So now the user flow goes like, pick a cable, doesn't matter which one, and the application understands you're holding an HDMI cable, and then with augmented reality, we're guiding the user towards the backplate of the set-top box. So this is just one example of, it's not that hard to train a TensorFlow model, convert it to TensorFlow Lite, embed it in a mobile application, and create a good experience. Another example I brought with me is, so we have a digital model of our office. This is our office. So we did reinforcement learning, and we learned that an agent can navigate itself in our office because we're prototyping applications for indoor navigation, for airports and innovation centers. And so we can actually deploy this reinforcement learning model onto an iPad. So you could, within AR, follow a virtual guide that knows how to navigate itself in your 3D office. So another example, this is also TensorFlow Lite. So we train an agent on the cloud, on GPUs, but we deploy it on an iPad. Another slide example. Who has kids that have woody pajamas? Raise your hands. Yeah, right. So we've built an amazing application. It's being launched in a couple of weeks. And so the pajamas have characters like this dodo here, and they come to life in augmented reality. So it's just an example now. So kids can have a look at this at their favorite cartoon, the thing they have on their pajamas. This is another AR application, so we're a digital products to make end-to-end products. So the dodo follows you. You can throw cookies at it. It knows where you are. But then we added another TensorFlow feature. Might be a bit silly again. So we train it to recognize the pajama that the child is wearing. So if the user flow is now put in selfie mode, take a picture of yourself with the pajama and the character. The TensorFlow Lite model knows which pajama you're wearing, and the character comes to life into AR on your bedroom. So it's not, again, it's not just running TensorFlow on itself, but it's really a feature. Machine learning as a feature in a digital product. Another example, just being able to take a picture, but to understand what's in that picture. 92 people in there, 2 backpacks. Also, amazing example, just research from Google recently. They packed a complete speech-to-text model in just 80 megabytes. So you don't, when you speak to your phone, it doesn't go to Google Translate in the clouds anymore. It just runs on your mobile phone. This is, again, TensorFlow Lite. It's about deploying models, machine learning models, on the edge. So what do these share? I think this is our vision. Training, a lot of training goes into the cloud. But really, we're going to a future where a lot of the models themselves live and work on the edge across millions of devices. And that's where the model inference is actually happening. Just some cues that make us think about running AI on the edge is when you need low latency. When you're concerned about privacy, data should not always leave the phones. Cost, if you want to have 30 calls per second to an API, it's a lot. AI inference chips are very energy efficient, and when you want to be able to run your model offline. So I think take-home message, 5 seconds left. AI first. AI helps us better understand our users and their needs and their context that they're acting in. And being able to use TensorFlow and TensorFlow Lite on mobile phones and digital products enables us to better understand our users and to deliver better user experiences. So machine learning as a feature in a complete digital product, it's very accessible to do this with TensorFlow and TensorFlow Lite. Time's up. Thank you for your attention.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Kenny, well done. You've seen it on the app. We have more than 650 people who have downloaded the app now, more than 1,000 who registered. And when you look at the app and you look at the bio of Jennifer, you will find out that she works for Python Predictions. She has a PhD. Then you would expect that a person like that will take no risk and come up with some formulas and explain us the mathematical thing of a formula. No, that's not her point today. She wants to explain to us and to wake us up, saying that AI is overrated and how she believes that we might be in front of an interesting crisis. So here is Jennifer. Thank you very much.
So good afternoon, everybody. So as already introduced, I'm working at Python Prediction, and I'm working in a data science team. So today I want to pitch about the 5 reasons why AI is overrated. Okay. So I want to pitch actually what we think as a company about this, because we believe in AI, and in the long run we believe that there will be driverless cars, and it will impact our lives, it will impact society, but on the short run we think that sometimes in businesses there's like this inflated expectations about AI, and then they are a little bit disappointed about the return on their investments and algorithms. So the first thing I want to talk about is like, what is AI actually? Because AI actually like covers a lot of components. You have the very mature components, like we can predict which movie you will watch next. We can figure out if we want to grant you a loan. But there are also components that are still maturing now, like chatbots, bots, and then like I said, the driverless cars. And we feel like that the day of today, some companies, they just package these existing algorithms and they call it AI-driven, and they actually are really profiting of this confusion about it, and in the end, no actually value is created. So we see that like managers, that they really are going for this AI-driven project because they are cool. And then on the other hand, you have this data scientist. They love to work with everything, what is new, what's popular. But the problem is here, the manager and the data scientist, they're not putting the value of their business first. They're actually saying like, okay, we do each our own thing and we do what we like and it's cool. But yeah, like I said, no value is created, and you know, even Elvis know that it was like 1 for the money and then 2 for the show. Yeah. So it's fun, like I'm also a data scientist. It's so fun to work with new technologies, and also companies, they are changing their data infrastructure, the analytics infrastructure, and that's a good thing, of course, because now we can generate innovation. But this technological change, it goes at such a high speed that we're actually standing still because there's no actually business value created. Like if we build a model today, how will we know that it will be implemented in a year in the system if we have no idea how their production environment will look like? So 10 years ago, I can't believe that a lot of data scientists, they had to actually go to the business manager and had to convince them that if we use algorithms, we can have sometimes better outputs than if we just base our decisions by human decision making. But now we sometimes see the complete opposite. There's sometimes a blind trust in the algorithm. And we are now really in favor of interpretability, because that not only creates value, it also poses less of a risk, and as we already heard today, like ethics and the legal framework, they're really in favor of this interpretability. And then I think this happens a lot. Like, yes, a company, they start doing AI projects, and they hire enthusiastic data scientists, but it happens a lot that the managers and the data scientists, they don't speak the same language, and it actually creates a gap. So we really have to be careful about this, because in this gap, a lot of value can be lost. Of course, I can talk about all these things, but we also reflected on it back in our company. And then we actually also saw, yeah, we're also to blame. We also tried to strive to get the coolest, the most innovative projects. So we decided to take a step back, and we actually focused on what we're really good is, like focusing all our strengths on these business applications, and actually that the business understanding is a critical thing to crack the case. So we really want to bridge this gap. So if you ever feel that your data science team is disconnected from your business, so please call us, please contact us, because we will bridge your gap. Thank you.
So, thank you for this, those 5 interesting points. So the next speaker is from Sentiance. Sentiance has been participating to these events since the beginning. We haven't had a presentation from you yet, Bertrand, and so we're really looking forward to your presentation.
Hi everyone, so I'm Bertrand Fontaine. I'm the Chief Data Scientist at Sentiance. So Sentiance is a 70 people company. We're based in Antwerp. We have R&D in Toronto, Vilnius, and New York. Today I'm going to present one of our products. So it's been clear so far for the great talk we've heard that ethics, privacy, and human-centric is really central to the debate since a few years. So here I'm going to show how we can mix behavioral science, machine learning, and evil profiling and tracking in an ethical and beneficial way. So let's take as an example insurance company, so that wants their clients to quit smoking. So what we're going to propose them to power their solution. So the core technology is to put our SDK, so our piece of software, in their mobile app. Basically, what our SDK is going to do is collect GPS data and a sensor while the user is moving. We don't need more data than that. We don't need camera data. We don't need Twitter profile. We don't need contacts. And from this data, we're going to enrich it so that we know what the user is doing at a certain moment. We can predict what he will be doing. We know his profile. And on top of this information, we build a coaching platform that will make sure that the user will quit smoking and that this behavior will last long. So let me first explain how we observe and predict. So from this flow for each user, we have a flow of GPS and sensor data. First thing, we're going to detect the events. So if you're in a transport, we're going to classify whether you're in a car, a tram, a bus. If you're in a car, we'll know if you're handling your phone, if you're driving smoothly or aggressively. Same for location. We know if you're a supermarket or the gym, etc. So basically, we're going to answer the what, where, and when. From this series of events, from this timeline of events, we're going to contextualize them. So basically, if you're in a car, are you in the car because you're driving home? Are you in the car because you're dropping off your kids? Are you in the car because you're going shopping? So basically, we understand, we answer the why of those events, the intent of the action. And on top of this, we're going to segment the people, so all this information to know if they're workaholic, if they are shopaholic, if they're sportive, and so on. And also the moment an event, we have algorithm to predict the future of each user. So this is our core AI platform. So some some clients, they will just use our API to get those insights in their application. But what we did is build a coaching platform on top of this. So we have a team of behavioral scientists at Sentiance, and they know from the literature which technique to use from which use case. So if you want to make sure someone quits smoking, the approach is very different than if you want someone to become a better driver. So they really have this expertise to apply the right approach to the right use case. We can also ask for declare data, so we can ask questions to the user to know a bit more about them and so on. But the big differentiator for us is the fact that we can, thanks to our contextualization platform, we can tailor the approach and to the timeline of the user and to his profile. So in a nutshell, why our approach is more advanced than the rest, because first we can contact, we can engage with the user at the right time, because we know what the user is doing at a certain point in time and we know what it will do in the future. We can engage him at the relevant time, which is very important for adherence. We can contextualize, we can personalize the content of the message. So if you're talking to a certain profile, you want to put something in a message that you wouldn't put to someone else. And also, and that may be the most important, we can measure the behavior. So we can measure the behavior and its change. So we don't need feedback from the user, say how many times have you been training, how many times have you been running this week, because we know that thanks to our approach. And so you see, it's a closed loop approach, so that everything we do, we're going to measure back the change, and then we can see the evolution of the behavioral change. So as I said, the ethic is very important for us. So obviously, this technology could be used for the wrong purpose, for the wrong goals, and obviously some companies do that. We don't do that. We really believe that AI should make people's lives better. So we really working with filtering the use cases, we're filtering our clients so that we make sure that first there is a transparency, and that's the first purpose is to give a service that will benefit the people. So here I list a few of those. So smoking cessation, for example. So there, it's obvious that you want to have a content. The message content will be different for someone who is a workaholic or someone who goes out at night every 2 days. So all of these cases here, so the personal finance, the mobility, the well-being, we've proven that to have this contextualized approach will yield better result than just having a pure, I would say, static approach without knowing anything about the user. I want to go in a little example more in detail. So we have a white label app. about driver coaching. So here the pitch is simple. We want the road to be more safe, so that we sell that, for example, to a car insurance company, and they will use that so that their user drive more carefully. So here in the app, for example, once you're in a car, we have an algorithm that detects, okay, you're in a car. Some other algorithm we detect, are you handling your phone? Are you driving, like accelerating like crazy, braking like crazy? We know also the context of the car. So are you dropping off your kids? Are you commuting? So from there we can put some scores, and then the user will see his scores. We can also tell with very precision why we put those scores. For example, we say, we've seen you've handled the phone at this position this time. We've seen you've been accelerating like crazy here and there. So it's very actionable, so the user can really do something about it. We're gonna profile the user and give him that feedback. And for example, the message we're gonna give would be different. For example, for someone who normally use public transport than a diehard car driver. So it's been shown in the literature that those two population would react differently to different message. And there we can easily, thanks to those scores, track the change of behavior of the user. So again, I'm not going to go into details. Has been talked a lot this morning, but this is core to our business, to be transparent and to be ethical. Obviously, we're working with very sensitive things. So for us, the big differentiator with the people doing the same is that the data belongs to the user. We don't own the data, and we try to be fair and without bias, and all the things that's been mentioned this morning. Okay, thank you.
Yes, this red stuff. Thank you. So that's good. We're still on time. So make sure that you have the app ready, because we are going to vote for the personality of the year who is sitting there. So our next speaker will be talking about AI and in the recruitment business and human resource business, and he will talk and see if AI can suggest the next best job. Here is Enias.
Thank you for the nice introduction. Let's wait a bit for the slides then. Is that correct? Yep. Yes. Hello, diSummit. 5 days a week. That's the amount of time we spend at our jobs each week. So it's super important. There's a great match between us and the jobs we execute. And that is why we built the Talent API that tries to destroy that wall of data that stands in between a clear communication across job seekers and employers. And last year, we started with the first version of the Talent API. We showed you how we use deep learning to parse CVs and vacancies and learn from user behavior to provide you with an answer to the question, what is my best job? And since then, we have helped thousands of users find their best matching job. But one burning question remains unanswered. People started asking, can you please explain me why there is a match with this job? And that is why we now, it's our second version of the Talent API, try to answer questions like, do I have the right skills for this job? Can I apply? Or am I missing some skills? Can I learn a bit more and be a better candidate? And that is why we are now parsing both job seekers and job profiles and extract skills from them. And that means, for example, I can go in, log in on our API, and then see, okay, hello, I'm Enias, a computer scientist at heart with a passion for big data, Amazon Web Services, and I'm an eager learner, and you can be sure that I've played around a bit with convolutional neural networks. And then I can see my best match. And of course, my employer said to me, your best match is your current job. So machine learning engineer at Radix, that requires a computer science degree and some experience in deep learning. And then I look at the skill matches and I get an immediate heart attack because it tells me there is not a match. Enias, you should be fired tomorrow. Luckily for me, this just is a clear example that skill matching is a hard problem. We need a system that understands that people will use different ways to describe the same skill. They will use synonyms like big data, data analysis. They will use abbreviations, AWS, Amazon Web Services. And most of all, people tend to be very specific. And to properly explain a match, we need a system that can generalize from something very specific to something overarching, a skill that everyone can understand. And of course, we need a system that can speak all languages, French, Dutch, English, all at once. And our Talent API is able to accomplish all these goals thanks to what we call the skill cloud. The skill cloud learns from all the data we can find on the job market today and learns about connections across skill representations, how you describe your skills. And that means we can now jump into the network and serve across synonyms, abbreviations, and different languages all at once, easy. And we can also provide you with a motivated way to go from something very specific to something very understandable. And that means I'm saved. Davio, don't fire me because I am a perfect match for that machine learning engineering job. But the Talent API goes a bit further. We don't just say yes or no to skills. We provide some deeper understanding using, you guessed it, we use deep learning. We pre-process my profile and that machine learning job using the skill cloud, and then use deep learning to provide a match score for each individual skill. And this is super helpful because now I can interact with that match. I can see, okay, I am a match with a machine learning engineer because I'm experienced in computer science, data analysis and deployment. But wait, I'm missing some presentation skills. So I can now use that information and define my career path. I can say, I really want this job as a machine learning engineer and focus on my presentation skills, making me a better candidate. And maybe Radix is just on a hiring spree and they use our deep learning matcher to find good candidates. And I'm lucky, I'm one of them. And they can now at one go see, okay, if we hire Enias, then we should focus on his presentation skills, but because he is lacking that. And that brings us here today. I'm standing here on this stage thanks to a great match I have found, thanks to deep learning, a match between me and machine learning engineer at Radix, and thanks to the explainability or interpretability of skills, they were able to shape me into my dream career, presenting here at the diSummit. So that is in a nutshell how we use Talent API to empower the job market, both job seekers and employers, by providing them with great matches and showing them how this match came around. Thank you very much for listening. And vote for our startup.
Well within time. Yes. So, the next speaker is probably one of my favorite personalities in Belgium. She initiated, is it you? You can, I can call you she whenever you want. So she initiated the Women in AI community a few months ago. She has had her own startup for many years now, her own successful startup. Let me please introduce to you my favorite female personality of the year. Here is Ségolène Martin.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, I've been told by Philip that I should not start my presentation without asking you to vote for me, but I won't make it compulsory. So, hello everyone, I'm Ségolène. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Kantify. We are an AI company. We are based in Brussels, and we develop AI solutions for other companies. And today I'm going to speak to you about a topic that we like very much and we've been working intensively over the past months, which is document reading thanks to artificial intelligence. This is me, by the way. So this is me and my team. We are Kantify, and we are a team of AI passionates, and our mission and what drives us and motivates us is really to help other companies, to our client other companies, become better and more competitive thanks to artificial intelligence. So we start by identifying a business problem, and we develop a solution to tackle these business problems. We have two main fields of activity, which is on the one hand sales and marketing, on the other hand finance and procurement and accounting. And you see we are very happy. Today I'm speaking to you about something which, as I said, we've been working on, which is document reading through artificial intelligence. In this room, most of us are, all of us, I assume, are very lucky because we can read. We've been learning to read in our childhood, and we've been through a few steps. We started identifying characters, letters, A, B, C, and so on, words, sentences, paragraphs, and now when you see a poster, for example, on the street, you're able to make sense of it, identify the main elements, and you don't even think about it. For example, if I show you this book that may ring a bell to some of you, The Big Friendly Giant, Le Bon Gros Géant, you understand what it is. And if I show you this book, it's the same book but with another cover, other letters, and so on. You can, after a few seconds, I don't understand that it's the same book, basically, and if I ask you to identify the title, the name of the author, you can do it in an easy way. It's actually not the same for technology. Document reading is surprisingly difficult. And there is a field where it's difficult and where there are many documents to read, it's accounting. What we've been working on is especially invoices. All the companies in Europe, in the world, receive and send invoices. And when you receive an invoice, of course, you have to pay it if you have to. And you also have to encode information from the invoices, the VAT number, the amount, whatever. And it takes a lot of time. And many of you are thinking, okay, this exists since a lot of time already. You have OCR, optical character recognition solutions that work well on encoding information from invoices. It's actually not the case. These technologies fail because they need to have already seen a template in order to identify where to look for the information. Let me show you an example. Yeah, this is an invoice with a few fields that are detected. For example, let's say the VAT area here in red. They are detected because the solution, so traditional solution, knows where to look for the information. If the information changes, suddenly it's harder. The field is blank, and for an accountant, if you use this kind of solution, you have to do it yourself because it doesn't work. Oops. So this is why we've developed Fin.ai, which we are going to launch very soon. It's an AI-based solution, so we bring AI to invoice reading, to document reading, in order to be able to understand any kind of document, any kind of invoice, whatever its template. And when you know that billions of documents are exchanged in Europe and in the world, of course, every year rather, it's quite a challenging task to do, and it's something that is being made possible thanks to artificial intelligence. So this is something that we are very excited to announce, and this is how it works, basically. You recognize our dear invoice, and the place of the information changes, and the solution still is able to recognize it. So this is Fin.ai, and if some of you are working in the financial sector or accounting sector are interested to learn more about it, you're of course welcome not only to vote for me, but also to speak either now, thereafter, or to get in touch by email in the coming days. So thank you very much for your attention. And don't forget to vote. Thank you.
Merci, madame. Thank you very much. 101 people voted for Personality of the Year until now. So, and I have the names. So the next person is someone who has been active in machine learning, that has been doing some research about it. I would like to call on the floor Mr. Patrice Latinne. He has been within the data science community, the AI community for ages now. And so very proud to have you here, Patrice.
Thank you, Philippe. Thank you very much for welcoming me. So hello, everyone. So my name is Patrice. I'm from EY. I'm leading the data analytics team together with my colleagues, whose name will be shown. So Amir, Alex, and Matthias. And we're leading a team of more than 25 people today, focusing in financial services. So I will introduce the subject of making machine learning more human. And to introduce that subject, I will show, hopefully if it will work, a video. So let's click on a video, what is making machine learning more human in airports. It's only on this side? Yeah, here we go. Thank you. So, yes, at EY, building a better working world is our motto. Is a big code. It's very important, and so really the human element of artificial intelligence matters a lot. And here, I will present two cases. A new one that is from the STIB, so the public transport. In 2 days, they will launch SAMI. I don't know if any of you have heard about SAMI. It's actually the first autonomous bus that will be tested in 2 days. It's coming from Paris, actually, where it has already been tested. And it's tested in a specific environment, quite simple environment. Why? Because in comparison with an autonomous car, moving people from point A to point B is a more challenging problem. It's for the safety of the people in the bus, possibly standing up. So braking slowly matters a lot, and also about the comfort. So me as an AI system, how will I care about the comfort of the passengers? That is a very important preoccupation from the STIP. And additionally, we want to adopt the public transport. We want to use it. So do you trust actually the machine? That is a very important question. So testing the machine learning model behind the scene is important, and testing it within the right test environment, it's very hard to find. So it will be a slow test in the coming weeks, and then complexifying more and more the environment. Second use case is more, so it's not deciding when and how to stop the public transport, but deciding how and when to stop a credit line or loan. So probably more ground field, more down to earth again, but that's also our reality as consumers, as citizens, where we want a credit, where we want a loan. And so unfortunately, we are possibly bad payers, or our credit is not well accepted. And so nowadays, machine learning could help to using lots of variables, what you see on the left, based on the cash I have, on the different description of the credit I want to have. The business analyst or the regulator or the person in the branch or the broker wonders why the machine learning has actually decided when and how to stop the credit. So that's a very hard decision, and it's very accurate. We all know for many years how to validate a machine learning model using the classic techniques, but how can we be sure that it's applicable? And actually today it's not yet applicable, not only for regulatory purposes. So how can we solve that problem? How can we make the machine learning more human in the way it actually decides about credits? One example, quite becoming more and more typical or famous nowadays is actually using these kinds of techniques. Actually, what matters is to refuse a risky customer. So if I focus on the left on only the record of my riskiest customer of interest, you see on column the different variables that have been used by the machine learning model, and green or red, the score, the risk score. In red, here I have taken the record, and I will focus on that record only. And I will simulate, in addition to that, a data set that is very close, but we can wait a bit, the similarity, creating a data set so that I can actually not apply my complex machine learning model, but actually on this data set, this simulated sample, apply a linear model. So that the linear model that I master very well, whose coefficient can be more easily interpretable, can help me explain what the complex machine learning has done. And so that's the general approach that is under investigation. So we use this surrogate model and its coefficients around the region of the riskiest customer, and then it provides different visualization of the scores of the different coefficients to know which variables, which attributes actually speak positively or negatively for the decision of stopping the credit line or the loan. Additionally, we have multiple techniques, analysis techniques to do that, to measure the dependency in variables, to measure the sensitivity, the robustness, and therefore the interpretability and the monodicity of the machine learning models. But you need to validate this approach as well. So that's why on the right side, you have other techniques that help to validate the surrogate model, the simple model itself, on the region where we wanted really to better understand the complex machine learning model. So all these techniques are techniques for statistics and other techniques, machine learning techniques as well, to possibly move a step further and open more doors towards machine learning and AI. Opening new doors in machine learning and AI, typically it's not only to have an informational model, but basically to be able to deploy AI systems in real-world applications like the buses or the credit lines, loans, and many other applications as we have seen today. And that's what we do, actually, at EY, end-to-end from the ideation, what are your use case, up and until the deployment, industrialization of machine learning models, following the rules. And we have been talking a lot about trusted information, trusted data, trusted artificial intelligence in order to move towards business transformation, which is our core business at EY. So that's the point. Thank you very much, and have a nice afternoon.
Okay, thank you very much. So it's time for me for my sexist joke of the day. Normally, when you look at the pictures, the ladies say, "Oh, I look much better on this picture." Here in this case, it's completely the opposite. Let me please introduce you to Tem Bertels from Riaktr. Thank you, Tem, for being here.
Just waiting a second for the slides to come up. But I'll maybe start. So my name is Tem Bertels. I'm a product manager at Riaktr. A couple of words about our company. So Riaktr is a software company that creates software for telecom operators. So our main goal is to... Thank you. Yeah. We work for some of the biggest telecom operators in the world, and our main goal is to basically take the wealth of data that a telecom operator has and transform it into something that is valuable for our users, which are basically the employees of the telecom operator. So to go back to the context of this talk, so basically big data and analytics is a big deal in business more and more, so it's not just R&D anymore. Forrester Research has estimated that the value of AI by 2020 will be over $1 trillion, which is quite a lot of money. And we've seen that in our sales processes, very often our clients ask us, do you do analytics, do you do AI? And so that's a nice box to check. But what we've also noticed is that you shouldn't do AI just for the sake of AI, because that doesn't work. Our idea is we should start with a business problem. You should always go from a business problem. That business problem can be very broad. It can be about identifying spam. It can be about suggesting products for a client to buy. It can be about customer segmentation, predictive maintenance, network usage optimization, and things like that. But in general, the process that we follow is you have a goal, you have a problem and a goal. You have to identify the process that you want to follow and the data that you want to use to solve that issue that you're having. You're going to get insights from your analytics and your AI, and you basically have to package those insights into a solution that makes sense for your users. So I'm going to talk about 3 of those concrete situations that we've had. So the first one was a client who wanted to basically know where to invest in their mobile network, mobile telecom network. And so they wanted to improve the user experience because they wanted to reduce churn. And so what we did was we took all of the data that they had available, and it's a lot of it, it's revenue information, cost information, customer behavior information, and we put it into our system. And what came out, the insights that we got, was that basically people churn when they're not well covered at their house, at their home, at their work, or during the commute from their home to their work. An additional thing that we found out is that users actually churn if they use a lot of voice over IP services like WhatsApp, and they don't have a good coverage. And so what we did was, in our solution, we basically told them that they should invest in mobile sites at high-density residential areas and high-density business areas, but also along trainways and highways to basically cover that commute time. A second case that we had was a client who wanted to improve their call center systems and efficiency. And so basically, they wanted to react to issues more efficiently and quicker. Again, we took a lot of data that they had available, which was relevant for our particular use case. We put it into the system, and we found that usually issues don't come alone. If you have issues, there's a peak of issues, there's a spike. They usually can be traced to either a specific hardware or a specific region. And we could actually identify clients that were having the issue or that were probably going to have the issue in the near future. And so what we did was, in our solution, in our product that we were selling to this customer, we basically gave alerts to the call center agents to say, well, there is a spike that is currently happening, be aware of this. We would help them analyze where the potential spike was coming from, and we would also update clients' profiles so that when a client would call into the call center agent already saw that they were potentially having this issue. And so they could actually handle the call more efficiently, and the client would go away with a better feeling and a happier customer experience. And then a third case that we had was one of our clients wanted to optimize their proposals of products to their clients. And so they wanted to increase the chances of actually selling a product. This was in a prepaid country, and so again, we took a lot of data that they had available, we put it into the system, and one of the main insights that came out was that there was a peak in porn consumption every Saturday night between 11 p.m. and 8 a.m. on Saturday nights. And so what we told them was, maybe make a package, like a bundle that you can sell to these specific people, which you call Saturday Night Video Bundle, and which will allow you to cheaply stream video on Saturday nights. And it actually worked quite well. But regardless of the use case that you're having, 3 points that I want to end with is that, first and foremost, try to make sure that your users are aware that some of the outcomes of your analytics will not be what they expect. If they're aware of that and they've been warned of that in advance, they'll be more accepting of the outcome of what you're showing them. And then secondly, this has been mentioned a couple of times before today, is try not to make it a black box. Try to make sure that you document what you're showing your users to the level that is interesting for them. So if they're technical people, don't hesitate to go technical. If they're more business users, try to keep it at a level that for them makes sense. And then finally, try to embed it into a product, because AI for the sake of AI doesn't make sense. You need to make sure that your users can get value out of the intelligence that you're giving them. Thank you.
So the next speaker is probably the most unlucky CEO of today, because he got nominated. His startup has got nominated for Startup of the Year, and by one of the other mishack, the name of his startup was not reproduced in your app. So if we can make it up to him by nominating him as the Personality of the Year, I will be very, very happy for it. So here is Kevin Françoisse from Sagacify.
Thank you very much, Philippe. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Sagacify. We help companies transition towards towards the artificial intelligence era. So, as you all know, artificial intelligence is a little bit like big data was a few years ago, and I still find that some companies struggle or lack some guidelines about how to successfully transition towards the artificial intelligence era. It's easy to find technical resources, but not so easy to find resources for managers and how to actually implement that in the company. So a good resource to start reading with is the AI Transformation Playbook by Andrew Ng, one of the top thinker and top mind in artificial intelligence in the world. He describes in 4 or 5 steps how should a company becoming good at AI. I'm going to describe some of them here. The first one, execute pilot projects to gain momentum. Okay, it's more important to start with a project that's going to be successful rather than a project that's going to generate money, so that you can generate visibility internally, generate buy-in, and confidence. Also, try to start with a project that's very technically feasible, so that you increase the chances of success. I see too many companies that are putting the bar too high on their first project, and they fail to deliver, and also they fail to manage expectations. So after several projects, once you'll have been successful, you can start building an ML team internally. It's going to be easier. You're going to have a more attractiveness and retention of people. And also, ML projects are going to start becoming more and more core business. So it's important to keep the knowledge within the company. Very important also, to becoming good at AI, you not only need good engineers, but you need also multiple people at multiple levels of the company to becoming good at AI, to understand what AI is, the benefits, what can be done, what can't be done, so that they can start thinking about an AI strategy. And only then, after those 3 first steps have been done, can you start thinking as a company about a sound, thoughtful AI strategy. And some key elements that I like to point out is try to define a strategy that differentiates yourself in your industry. Do not do things that the industry are doing, or Google and Facebook and so on. You will not win. Also try to design a virtual circle of AI in your products with implement positive feedback loop. Always think about feedback loop in your system so that the machine learning system will keep improving, generating more and more users. Data is a key asset. That is your competitive advantage, not the algorithm, not the AI team, it's the data. So try to think about a sound data strategy. Those are things that we like brainstorming with our customer about. So a very good example, you could start with a very basic and simplest and solved case many times, which is email classification, document segmentation, email priority identification, as the first use case that is sure to succeed, or then you can move on to a use case where you process orders automatically by extracting relevant fields of emails and putting them in the CRM. Also, you save a lot of time of operators there, so you're guaranteed to have a great success on the bottom line there. Then you could move on and also start processing automatically all the documents that are attached to these emails. For example, invoices that could also be analyzed, and also try to define whether they are proportionate to a task at hand and see whether or not you should dispute it. And all those use cases can generate great ARIs for the company, and they are very easy to build. Before then, the company can start multiplying the successes with machine learning. With the customer, when you're working on a case, it's very important to focus on one performance metric to optimize for, and also ask questions like how costly are the wrong predictions, and how frequently my system needs to be correct to be useful, and all those questions that's going to help the AI team define the right approach and the right methodology. Deploy in production as soon as possible, okay, but don't migrate your whole infrastructure in the cloud first. No, you focus on the use case, and the AI platform that you're going to build in production has to serve one purpose, one use case, okay, vertically. And then as you're going to increase more and more use cases, you can scale horizontally your AI platform, your data lakes, and so on. But don't do everything at once. And data engineers are the most scarce and important resources in this task. Also, we're deep learning specialists, and we also like to play with a lot of deep learning architecture. We found that multitask, multi-output deep learning architecture worked best, and actually on the 3 use cases that I presented there, that can be done with only one deep learning architecture, just for the fun of it, because multiple outputs can can reinforce mutually all the embeddings in the architecture and increase the results of all the use cases. So we see 3 levels of artificial intelligence: automating tasks easiest, augment people expertise, and innovate with new business, bundle a new product with capabilities of AI that weren't possible before. These are a few examples of things that we're working on at Sagacify. The car damage estimation, process optimization in a hospital, automated document processing with no templates whatsoever, with to support online onboarding in insurance and banks. We also identified tuberculosis hotspot in Africa only using satellite imagery. Pretty cool project. So the AI train is running fast and accelerating. I would recommend to embark it rapidly, safely, and sustainably. So we clearly saw that we have a methodology with the skills, with the experience, and you probably have the need. So my question is to you, we hope that we're going to be able to help the next company in the room embark the AI train. Thank you very much.
So our next speaker once refused to attend one of our diSummit because we said that it was going to be a diSummit with only women speakers, and she said, no, I'm not talking to a diSummit where there are only women speakers. I'm a data scientist first, and I want to speak because I know my stuff. So this is Nele from Nico.
More and more people realize that we should drastically reduce our carbon footprint. And to achieve this, one thing that we can do is to avoid energy wastage. And today I will explain you how Nico is using data science to help people save energy in their homes. Nico is a Belgian company. It's founded 100 years ago, exactly. Almost every building in Belgium has Nico material in it, so you will probably recognize these sockets, switches, detectors, and so on. But Nico is more than switches and sockets. Nico has a home automation system called Nico Home Control that helps you to control your lights, your ventilation, your blinds, your shutter, your music in your home using your smartphone or a touchscreen. Almost 10,000 households in Belgium have Nico Home Control installed in their house. And as a next step, Nico wants to develop Nico Home Control further to turn these connected homes into smart homes. These are homes that make the life more comfortable and the home more energy efficient. And today, I will explain you 2 projects that we're working on that are using data science to reduce energy wastage in the home with Nico Home Control. First one is benchmarking, and the second one I will talk about is slumber consumption. So let's start with benchmarking. Consider a family and they bought a washing machine about 15 years ago. And at that time, it was a very energy efficient washing machine. And now they want to know if this washing machine is still energy efficient. Now Nico has these so-called smart sockets. And these sockets have the same functionality as normal sockets. But additionally, they're also measuring the energy consumption of your appliance. So what we do is we connect this washing machine to a smart socket. The smart socket sends the energy measurements to the gateway, and the gateway uploads these measurements to the cloud, where the data science team can do then the magic. First thing that we need to do is to detect which appliance is connected to the socket. So in order to do that, we extract some features from the energy logs, like the minimum, maximum, and so on. And then we apply a support vector machine or a random forest to it to find the appliance type. Next, we extract the washing cycles from this washing machine, and we calculate the average energy consumption of one washing cycle. And next, we can compare the energy consumption of this washing machine to the energy consumption of all the washing machines of other Nico customers. And this will give us insight in the energy efficiency of your appliance. And what we finally do is we send a report to the customers that give them a full overview of the benchmarking of their appliances, so not only their washing machine. And we also show how much money and energy they could save by replacing this device with a new device. Next topic I want to talk about is standby consumption. So you know there's many devices like televisions, ovens, printers and so on that have a standby mode that uses less energy and that allows to restart the appliance more quickly. Consider, for instance, this television of a family, and as you can see, this family only watches television between 7 and 9 p.m., and during the rest of the day, the appliance is in standby mode. Now, even though the standby energy consumption is very low, the total standby consumption over the day is very high, as the standby mode is activated 90% of the time. So what we want to do is to give our customers insight in the standby consumption of their appliances, so that they can identify which appliances have the highest slumber consumption and to encourage them to turn these devices completely off. To calculate the slumber consumption, in order to generate these reports, we need to take into account that each appliance has a different standby consumption, so we need some data science to calculate this threshold or this standby value. Currently, we do this by binning all the energy logs and taking the value that is mostly occurring, because we know that a standby value, a standby energy consumption, normally features a very constant value, and this is also confirmed in our experiments. And then once we have the slumber consumption for each device, we can calculate the cost of this slumber consumption for each device, and we can calculate how much money could be saved by turning off these appliances instead of putting them in standby mode. Of course, there's much more than this. If you want to know more about the Nico solutions, please visit our website, nico.eu, or you can talk to me later. Thank you.
Well done, thank you very much. So without future ado, let's move on to the next presentation from Astrid. Astrid used to work in San Francisco. She now works for Dalberg Insights, and she's going to talk about data democracy.
Thank you very much. Great. Good afternoon. We arrive at a momentum where technology becomes more an ally, a foe rather than an ally. And actually we need to act if we want to make sure that we don't reproduce what has been done in finance, law, or even in politics, creating those opaque black boxes. So I am Astrid, I am a project manager at Dalberg Insights, and I'm not here today because I have the solution, but I would like just to come up with some avenue of thought. So if we have to summarize AI, there is three main components. There is the data we collect, the model and technology that we develop, and finally the context in which we are going to leverage those models. So indeed, AI starts with data, and data start from singular individual. But today, individuals don't know the value of the data. We have been launching some market research recently this year, and we found out that people don't know what are the value of the data. They don't know that, for example, when you navigate online, the data can be collected for biotech, which is great, you will tell me. Yes, but do you want Facebook to enter your brain through the Facebook brain minder? Do you know that, for example, Alibaba is behind the algorithm that built the credit score system in China? So indeed, individuals don't know the value of the data. They don't even know also who has access to it and for which purpose. So what individual does when that happens, they just give up. And what they do is that they assume that the expert will take the right decision for them. But who are the experts? Do they have the eligibility to take those decisions? I'm pretty sure that yes, indeed, they have some skills to develop models. But do they have the expertise to assess and define what was the humanity past history? Can they assess how the human function? Can they assess what we want or don't want for the future? So going through those 5 principles, we can actually ensure a little bit of ethics. So The first one is the problem. So making sure that we identify the problem we are trying to solve, the problem that we are not solving, and the one that we are going potentially to create with the new model. Then inclusivity. Inclusivity in the data we are going to collect. We need to make sure that they represent the targeted population of our model. And this applies also in terms of decision making. We want to make sure that the people who take the decision of the model are also representative of the targeted population. It always makes me smile when I heard that some dude from Silicon Valley are actually creating an app that can tackle human hunger in Africa. And without inclusivity, we actually open the door to bias, because those bias are created by the one developing the models that are related to the personal experience. Opacity. We need to make sure that those models are transparent, they are not opaque, because when you have inconsistency or injustice, we need to make sure that we can identify what are the indicators that are going wrong within the models. And finally, context. Because with the same model, you can actually have very different impacts depending on how you're going to leverage this model. So I'm not here today to tell you how bad is big data and AI, but more about like how can we reshape the game and make things differently. Because indeed, we can continue to build through machine learning and data collection, new recommender system to better target consumer audience. We can also leverage satellite data to identify where are the areas where we can continue to deforest by mass culture. But we can also leverage all of that, machine learning, satellite data, data collection overall, to actually predict food crisis in remote areas. This is what we did, actually, in Dalberg Insights. This is an app that we did, and it has been developed by Christophe. Christophe is our agri-tech lead. Christophe is a fantastic data scientist. But he couldn't develop that without spending time on the local location with smallholder farmers to understand what are the indicators that need to fit the model. That's the same with the other app we develop, one of the other apps we develop. This app can predict what are the Ebola outbreaks in West Africa. But we spend time locally with epidemiologists to incorporate a reality that we cannot assess ourselves. And finally, we are developing this project in data democracy, named Oscar. Why? Because it's very important to put the individual at the center of any decision to make sure that actually we can empower them and sensibilize them. Why we should do that? Because all the use cases that I just demonstrated and any new use case we would like to deploy in the future cannot be system if we don't deploy an ecosystem at large scale where individuals can decide with whom and for what purpose they will share the data with. Why is it important? Because data is the fuel of AI. Data comes from individuals. So data is our own new voting right to define and guarantee how do we want to reshape the future. Thank you very much.
So let's move on to the next speaker. Willem has his presentation that will pop up in a second, making sure that it's the right one. Willem has been, he's an expert in deep learning, has been traveling a lot, was a management consultant for many years, and his presentation I would be able to read the title of his presentation if I had my glasses, but I don't have them. So.
Thank you. And I'm happy to see that it's the right one, so thank you. So, hello everybody, my name is Willem Romanus. I'm head of strategy at Faction, and I would like to start immediately with a statement. You don't need an AI strategy. And I agree, it's clear this is a bold statement, and you might even think, who is this guy in the front? He's a head of strategy at Faction, and I have to admit I'm also an ex-strategy consultant, so who is this guy who's telling us here that we don't need an AI strategy? Well, first of all, I don't want to talk down the potential value of having an AI strategy. And I also don't want to suggest that you should treat AI and strategy separately. But I do want to give you a big fat warning today that it can be having an AI strategy can be a curse rather than a blessing. And why is that? Because having an AI strategy can give you a wrong, unjustified feeling of being in control and being in a safe place. And that's very dangerous. And to explain you this, I would like to take you back 20 years in time to the internet era and repeat which lesson we could learn from there. And I think most of us, or at least some of us, will have seen it all before, but it's a pity, I see today, that many of those lessons seem to be forgotten already by now. So, flashback to the 90s, I think you remember still that peculiar sound of the first modem when you tried to connect to the World Wide Web, which was something new, or you do probably remember also how it could take ages to download a file, and I'm not even talking about audio or video. And at the same time, this new thing called internet was also making a big buzz in the corporate world. It was the next big thing, was very promising. There was a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of hype as well, a bit similar to what we see today with AI. Now, and this meant also that executives and investors and even the most well-regarded business magazines and strategy consultants were talking about having an AI strategy and even about creating an internet strategy, creating an internet department, creating even a chief internet officer and things like that. And it was all about being well prepared. Now, if we look back with some retrospect to the years and decades that followed the hype with the internet, we saw that there was a lot of disruption in those years. There was a lot of companies that were forced to exit and to disappear. And I'm talking, of course, about the very painful burst of the dot-com bubble. But not only those companies, but also smaller companies like the bookstores that were hunted and then eventually eaten by companies that were growing very rapidly, like Amazon. And so you had, on the one side, companies that were losing and disappearing, and even new companies that wanted to make it in internet, but they were not able to do so. And on the other hand, you had these new breed of companies, which I call giants. Why? Because first of all, in terms of magnitude, some of them had, were bigger in size than anything seen before, and also their ambitions were wilder than what was dreamed before. So clearly, you had two kinds of companies, the winners and the losers, you could say. And something must have distinguished those two kinds of companies. And I believe it's important to make a clear distinction between having an internet strategy and being prepared in a balanced way, or as we call it, being well adjusted. And you can easily replace having an internet strategy today with AI strategy. So there is a lot of similarity. And that's why I would stress the importance of being well adjusted, because the hype today with AI is very similar to what we've seen before with the internet. Now, what does it mean to be a well-adjusted company? And please allow me first to tell you something else. The first thing you need to do is dare to think big and allow some risk. Today is the moment where you can take some risk, experiment a bit, but dare to think big. And just to give you a fun fact as an example, in 1996, there was an MIT student that came up with an internet use case, which was ordering pizzas online. And it seemed like a joke at the time, but when you look back now, it was actually very visionary for what was about to happen. So dare to think big, because if you don't today, somebody else will eat your pizza. Now, back to what it means to be well adjusted or well prepared. First of all, if you look at what happened after the internet hype, we can say that most companies were not well prepared or not well adjusted. And most of them were very naive, because they thought that if they would add websites to their business, they bought themselves a ticket to the moon or to the internet bonanza. Well, we've seen that it didn't work that way. And if you investigate it more closely, what it meant to be prepared for the internet in the end of the 90s, actually it was very simple. The recipe was a mix of two elements, humbleness and flexibility. And let me explain you this one by one. Let me start by humbleness. And I come from strategy consulting, and I can tell you the words strategy and humble are not very often heard together. And that's a pity, because if you look at the definition, there is a clear link very often between being humble and being successful. So humbleness here, in the sense that becoming an internet company or an AI company these days, it requires hard work. It's never finished. You cannot underestimate what it takes. But also humbleness in the sense that it required leaders and executives to rethink and to learn everything from scratch about what it meant to be an internet company. And if you take the example of selling books online, it required to be very global, to adopt a global mindset. I think of different languages, but also local customer preferences. Think of logistics, where you had to reflect on logistics at a whole new level. Think of hiring people with completely different skill sets, like developer skills, to add features online. So basically, selling books online meant learning how to sell books again. And to realize that, it requires to be humble. So that's the first thing. Second comes flexible. And what is flexible? Flexibility means being completely open for new things. It's allowing yourself to be surprised and to change course. Even if you're heading at full speed in one direction, you need to keep that openness. And to build on the example of Amazon, you all know Amazon initially as an online retailer, but today they really evolved to a true technology player. And actually, Amazon Web Services were piloted also by coincidence, because Jeff Bezos bumped into a biologist who was playing around with virtual pets, and his philosophy or his theory about life and its building blocks sparked the idea for Amazon to also decompose the computing process in its building blocks. And you'd have then storage, computing, hosting, and so on. So flexibility. And what happens if you combine humbleness and flexibility? That's where you get open-mindedness, true open-mindedness. And open-mindedness, it will then allow you to quickly spot new opportunities and to seriously consider doing something with those new opportunities, as opposed to being defensive and saying, this is not for me, or this will never work. So going back to the initial question, do you need an AI strategy? Let me conclude that having an AI strategy, it's not the same as being prepared. If you think that, for example, the hotels were not prepared, they didn't have a strategy for the internet, I think again they all had an internet strategy, but still they were not ready when Airbnb came and changed the rules for the whole business completely. So there's a clear difference between having a strategy for something and being really prepared or well adjusted for something. Key takeaway for today, it's a short session, so just one key message you need to take away. Become well adjusted. And it means being careful for both ends of the spectrum. So of course you should not become not prepared at all, because then you will die anyway, but also be careful of being overly prepared and becoming or arriving in that zone of false or unjustified security and feeling of control. That's very dangerous. So stay open, open-minded and well-adjusted, and it all starts with being humble and flexible. And then when I talk to executives on the topic of AI strategy, one of the questions I often get is also, okay, but do I need to start now and do I need to be a pioneer, or do I need to wait a bit and see what the others are doing and learn from that? Well, let me end with the following quote. A ship in the harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are built for. So my recommendation would be to fully embrace AI, start with it, sail to new horizons, And of course, you will meet challenges, unexpected things, but that's where you have partners for, like Faction. So if you want to go for it, I wish you all the luck, and just contact us if you need a good partner. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you very much. So let's wrap up this block. There are two blocks that we had prepared for you. One block with only startups on stage, and the other block with only scale-ups on stage. We will make it easier and have a somewhat longer break and finish a bit earlier. I'm going to ask all startups who want to be on stage to do an elevator pitch to come on stage, and all scale-ups who want to do the same to come on stage. And then we will have a very short discussion on being a startup in Belgium, being a scale-up in Belgium. What are the big problems? How do you do that? Is that so difficult or not? So please join me on stage to have that conversation, and I will ask my colleagues who are there also to join. So come on stage so we can continue. Okay, can I call the startups and the scale-ups on stage? So the way we will proceed is that we will allow each startup to present themselves in an elevator pitch of about 1.5 minutes, so that people can recognize you and say, oh yes, I remember that, that's the woman I need to vote for. And then once everybody has presented themselves, you can come on stage. We will then move on to a more dialogue setting, okay? So let's start with the ladies, and let's start with you.
Hi, my name is Rachel Alexander, and I founded Omina Technologies in 2016, and we've been focused since day one on ethical AI solutions. Okay. So I think a vote for us or supporting us in any way is really a support for ethical AI. I just want to say that the AI landscape right now in Belgium is really positive, and all my colleagues are also doing like wonderful jobs in AI, and I think we're very collaborative right now at this point as well. It's a nice environment.
Good afternoon. You probably saw me pitch like a few minutes before. So we're Sagacify. We're AI specialists, machine learning specialists, if you want to be more precise. So what we do, we help companies, as I said, transition or help them transition towards an AI-ready company, from brainstorming, at maturity assessment, then discovering all the opportunities that are lying, that are unmet in the organization, to the proof of concept, which is the first step of a successful AI transition, to the deployment in production. Think about also the AI platform that you have to put in place with data engineers, software architecture, and so on, and the life cycle management with software engineers. So from A to Z, we can help you in your transition. And we're a fan of the most ambitious. I mean, there is no limit with what you can do with artificial intelligence today in medicine, in operations, in manufacturing, in every industry. It's pretty fascinating. There is no AI winter yet to come.
Hi, so we are Sentiance, so also presented not so long ago. So we are AI scale-up. We are 75 people, headquartered in Antwerp. We have offices around the globe. So we built AI platforms so to enrich sensor data. So the customer typically will provide us some sensor, mainly mobile sensor, and we're going to enrich that data to give insight and context on what the people are doing. The customer, they can take those via API, offload, or Firehose, and we target different verticals. We're very busy in mobility, mobility as a service, and also UBI, and health, and also O2O.
So I'm Matthias from CompuData. At CompuData, we are very specialized in trying to fight financial crime with artificial intelligence. So what we are building a platform with different artificial intelligence solutions to really make the fight against financial crime more effective and more efficient. So what we're able to do with that is that we're really going to try to automate all the research that is done within financial institutions to be able to find the ones within transactions, for example, who are going to be the possible money launderers or terrorist financing. Thanks.
Thank you, Matthias.
Hi, my name is Rick. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of Chatlayer. Chatlayer is a conversational AI platform, and what it basically does is it helps large enterprises and businesses to create conversations with their customers in a very easy way. You all heard about chatbots, voice bots, etc., and that's exactly what our platform brings. Now, what makes our platform so special is that we enable the business users to create chatbots directly on the Chatlayer platform without coding, so they can use that directly. Today we're present in Western Europe. We're doing the first projects in Asia as well, and we're very proud to have a lot of large telcos and banking clients working already with us today.
So my name is Niels. I'm responsible for business development at Faction. You've seen the talk probably of Willem just before this session, talking about strategy and an AI strategy. We used to be an AI engineering provider, being a technical partner for our companies or for our clients in the domains of natural language processing, computer vision, and sensor data. But over time, we evolved and we have become an end-to-end AI solutions provider, meaning that we also guide our customers, starting from strategy over solution design and building and maintaining, deploying actual AI and machine learning solutions for a very wide range of problems and processes that we want to optimize or that we want to automate. Yeah, we're nominated in the AI Scale-Up category, so please vote for us, and we want to take this award home.
Hi, I'm Julie. I work for ML6. ML6 is an AI scale-up based in Ghent, and we offer our services to leading companies that want to implement intelligent technology to gain a competitive edge. So we really act as a true innovation partner, so we help them identify the right use cases, we help them implement those use cases, so we develop end-to-end solutions with and for them. And then finally, we also focus on translating state-of-the-art research into applications that they can really use to execute their strategy faster and more efficiently. We recently opened up offices in Amsterdam and Berlin, and now our ambition is to really enlarge that footprint and become the reference for machine learning in Europe.
Hello, I am Astrid. I am a project manager at Dalberg Insights. We are not really a startup because we are part of a larger group named Dalberg. So we are the entity in charge of big data and new technologies, and what we do is to leverage those to actually address social and economic development challenge, mostly in emerging countries, so focusing in Africa, Central America, South America. So we don't work in silos. It is very important to mention. We leverage, of course, machine learning and so on, but first we identified where are the problems. We spend time locally in those emerging countries, and then after that we develop the solution based on the problem, and then we we translate the result into interactive dashboard for the end user. We are based in Brussels. We also have an office in Kampala, but also many other offices through the Dalberg group. So if you're interested to know more, just ping me or send me an email. Thank you.
Hello, I am Nils. I'm from Crunch Analytics. I hope that you saw our talk this morning brought by Lane. You can find the talk back on our website as well. We are in Advanced Analytics, an AI agency based in Ghent. We especially work with retailers, manufacturers, and horticulture in Belgium and the Netherlands. We're opening an office soon in the Netherlands, so if you're interested in joining us, please do. Yes, I hope you had a pleasant day.
Right, so finally the little one. I'm machine learning engineer at Radix. We do all kinds of deep learning, machine learning, you name it. We have deep knowledge, in no pun intended, in natural language processing and in time series, but you can give us whatever problem you've got and we will try to solve it with our power of the team. Of course, vote for us, but if you are looking for a job or an even better job, join us. Thank you.
Let's split the group now. Let's split the group in the startup group on this side and the scale-up group on that side.
Can I pitch too? Again, last time, I promise. I am Marie Scalson. I represent Rianova, a three-headed company, a private research center, an IT consultancy company, and a startup incubator. We have three core expertise: data science, data architecture, and data engineering. We have 30
scientific publications for now. And Digazoo is our first success stories, and we love to work with our clients and our collaborators.
I'm sorry, Maries. Is there any other startup in the room who wants to present themselves very quickly? Now is the time. I can bring the mic. This is your moment of truth, of glory, of breakthrough. So here we are. So on one side we have the scale-ups. We even have a unicorn standing there. Stan, can you just say something, because maybe some people don't know you, were not there last year.
Hi everyone, I'm Stan. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Colibra, and we started our company long time ago. But you know, for all the people who are here pitching, and for all the people in the room, it's a little bit scary to be up on the stage and pitch your company. So if you have a company, a startup, please come and pitch it. And if you don't have a startup, please vote for them. You know, it may be silly, but your vote can actually help lift them up, help get more visibility, and if nothing else, it's really a vote of confidence that that these promising startups and scale-ups they all need it. Give them your vote, pretty please.
Excellent. So let's you go in the middle, Stan. You're like the net of the badminton game.
Startups and the scale-ups.
Yeah. So the idea is that we will start a ping pong game, and basically I will suggest that one of the startups ask a question to one of the scale-ups. Yeah, meaning how do we do that, or how did you do that, and that the scale-up answer that, and then give an advice to, because you are the older ones. Yeah, you are the older brothers, and that's the grandfather there. So that's the game. Yeah, we are there to help them, and we are there to put you in the spotlight. But if there is the first question from the startup towards a more mature scale-up environment, what would it be? Rachel.
Okay. So glad to know I'm one of the spring chickens, one of the young ones. I guess, okay, as a startup, you have this great idea, and you're really gung-ho, and then you kind of start realizing that the market is maybe not ready, that you're ahead of the market. So my question is, did you run into this problem? And if you did, how did you tackle it?
I'll give it a try. Yeah? Okay. AI, definitely. Some companies are less mature than others in terms of AI. So we definitely ran into that problem. But what we focus on is really finding those companies that are ready for it. And there are a lot of signs where you can see when they start talking about digital transformation and those kinds of things, and investing in data and digital, then you see that they're already thinking about the right questions. And that's probably the stage where you want to move in and see whether they're interested in already taking the next step. If they don't, you just plant a seed, and maybe they'll come back to you in a couple of years when they are ready.
Thank you very much.
Maybe a very short question, but what was for you the tipping point that you said, okay, we're no longer a startup, but we're now a scale-up?
Okay.
I think first it was the number of employees. So as part of management, the way you handle the team of 20 people is very different the way you handle a team of 75 people. So that's where HR is to coming. So I think if HR is very important in your company, it means you're a scale-up. If you're still working a bit like freestyling, maybe you're startup. But the way you have to handle, you have to start development plan. You have to think about really about the well-being of your people. I'm not saying that startup don't do that. That's maybe not the first focus. But after 50 people, the planning and the management becomes very, very, very different.
Something I want to add, of course, the numbers and the number of employees and the turnover, it all counts. But for us as well, we don't only look at that, we also look at market traction. And once there are bigger companies, like big corporates, that start to look at your company as experts, and they want your advice, and they're talking to you to help them solve a problem, that also means that you have a good market fit, that you have good expertise and that people recognize or companies recognize this expertise as well. And that's for me also one of the tipping points when you're no longer a startup who is typically still looking for his market fit and is trying and trial and error, but once you found the sweet spot and companies actually contact you to help them, I think that's also one of the indicators of being a scale-up for me.
And to me, it's also just the term scale up that you actually scale up your own product and your services. So at the beginning, you just like shoot and see. And then when you see that something is like, you know, taking into concept and so on, you try to reproduce it. Not exactly the same, but as soon as you start to scale up your existing one, to me, you can consider yourself as a scale up.
Just the last one. So I completely agree with everything that was said. I just want to add that you'll notice it in your organization. At some point, you'll see that you start to have some growing pains. And it's very important to notice those in time and to start acting on them in time. And that's typically when you start thinking about structure, because at some point, startups hate structure, but at some point you need structure. You will start to think about focus. How are you going to keep scaling up on your sweet spots? So when you need to start thinking about all of these things, that's typically the tipping point. And when you've gone through that transformation, because it is kind of a transformation in the company, then I think you can call yourself a startup, scale-up.
Yes. Well, you mentioned it. To be a scale-up, you need people, right? And you have plenty of experience in hiring. So what would you say is the best source to hire high-quality people? Because that is something hard to do.
I think there are two main things that are really super important when you hire people is to look at their tech skills. Of course, they have to have specific skills that you want for your organization, should be data engineering, data science, etc., but also soft skill, because they have to match with your enterprise culture. And it's super important for the for the ambience of your company to have the right people at the right place, because you want happy people. And that's made a startup to become a scale-up. It's the happiness of your employee.
Sort of the important for us as well is visibility. So we make sure that all the research we do in-house, we write blogs about it. So we want to position ourselves as an AI company, not just a buzzword, but to show that we have internally the competencies and that attracts talents a lot. If they know they're gonna do a work that is interesting and researchy, they will come to you.
Another addition, at Faction, we typically we hire for attitude and we train for skill. And where do you find this attitude? We all employ very passionate people that want to keep on learning and keep on being challenged on interesting projects. And you typically find those people on events like this or other meetups and focus groups where all these interested people that are interested in this technology, they want to contribute their time, their spare time after work to these events to learn and to grow and to evolve. And that's where you find the most passionate people. And in our belief, skills can mainly be trained as well.
And if I may just add one thing regarding that, is that actually you need to start to train your interviewer. Because I had to build a team in San Francisco, and trust me, it's a place where people can write everything they want on their resume, and you need to find out a way to actually assess the soft skills, the tech skills, and the hard skills, of course, but the soft skills. And to me, it starts with the person who can have these capabilities to actually challenge and to really understand if there is a team fit, if there is a real hard skills, soft skills. So to me, it starts with the person who's going to interview, actually.
So that was part of my question. So if you want to turn to scaling up, the first hire you should make is a new hire person, like person in charge of recruitment, that will recruit soft skills, because it's easy as a tech startup to recruit good tech profiles that are good fits for the product that you're trying to build. But for me, it's very difficult to recruit the best business developer, marketeer, or salesperson, because I'm not one of that person. No one in the team today has that kind of skill. So that's a bottleneck for us at the moment.
I'm not an HR person, and I was in charge to build my team, but sometimes when I had a doubt about like one skill, I will ask to someone who is more knowledgeable into that domain to interview with me or do those kind of things. But to me, you don't need to have someone who's, like, of course, when you have a large scale, it's just a question of putting your resources at the right moment. So you need to hire someone who is HR manager or something like that. But to me, you can learn those kind of things, and it doesn't mean that you don't have those skills, that you cannot assess someone to have those skills. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm not the biggest fan of HR necessarily, but it is definitely necessary, right? When you get to a certain stage, it is necessary. With respect to the hiring, I would say I would not, when the phase between startup and scale up, I would not hire the HR person first for the recruiting. I would rather say, okay, I'm going to have, in America, they call it a VP, right? You just get a VP of sales, and then it's this person's responsibility to do the hiring. So you don't have to know it, but it's his or her responsibility to say, you have to build a team of 20 sales. You figure it out. And then quickly, when you have a few like this, like a VP of development or whatever, quickly you realize, okay, all of these people need internal backing from HR to help with the recruiting, to help with the sourcing. But in essence, they become responsible for it. Yeah, you have to, because think about it, if you're really scaling up and you're adding, let's say, 50 or 100 people to your organization because you're now moving from $5 million in revenue and you have to get to the next stage of 20 million, right, or more, then you have to really build a whole organization. And you can't build a whole organization by hiring only people who can execute. You need people who can build that organization. So you need those people who have management experience as well, but hands-on management experience, not like paper pushers. You're welcome.
And can I just add one more thing? Because we haven't talked about it. And in tech startups, mainly when we talk about culture, we think it's fluffy stuff. But if you go from a startup to a scale-up and you refuse to leave people behind because of that transformation, culture is really important. So if you hire people, make sure that you pay attention to whether they fit within your culture, whether they also have that dynamic entrepreneurial mindset, which is so important, because you can have a person with the best skills. If they don't fit, they can rip your organization apart. So pay attention to that as well, and define what your culture is.
Yes, my question was regarding with the latter. I mean, we started our company in Ghent because we love the city and it's a great atmosphere with great people. But it's that atmosphere that you get there as a startup, and now you're growing, and we're now starting in Rotterdam as well, and it's the same vibe. But as a scale-up, what is the one tip, the one and only tip that you would give in order to maintain that startup vibe that you get in the beginning?
Communication. It's tough, and there is probably not one way to do it, but just make sure that communication keeps on flowing. Also, across the different countries, that's also how you keep synergies, but that also allows people to just interact, and it's in the interactions, it's in the communication where the culture really sits.
Yeah, so I work for a Belgian company in San Francisco, and I think indeed communication is really important, but also respect the fact that you have one main culture, but the other office might also have like subculture. And don't try to impose the main one, because otherwise you will have frustration. I had so many friends working for a company from China, and they're very frustrated because China in general, like they don't accept that there is another culture. So that to me is really important to respect.
Thank you. And do not imagine that technology could replace human beings too, because we tend to use a lot of applications and tools, etc. And what works the best is, in fact, person-to-person contact, to stay in touch and to implement the culture. That's the best.
It's a work in progress, and again, that's where the HR function becomes really important, because you have to do all the official things like writing your values down and then communicating them all the time, because you can have 10 new people in a week, right? So you think, okay, but I said it last week. Well, those people were not there, so that's why you have to keep repeating it. But I think if you want one piece of advice on culture, and we have offices in Belgium, Poland, London, Amsterdam, Paris, Melbourne, Toronto, New York. So it's like a whole mix of corporate culture you try to set up, but inevitably subcultures. For example, Europeans sometimes have problems with the American positivism, right? It's like, oh, everything's amazing. And the Europeans are like, well, what are you talking about? It's just normal. So I think the most important, you're the founder. So founder sets the culture. And you do that by living it, by being the example of the culture every day. So if you say it's innovation, and you come across a situation where you see some new manager saying to a guy, you can't do that, because you'll fail, then you just say, no, you must do that, because we want you to fail, because otherwise, so you really have to set the example and show it repeatedly. Again, every call you have, pull up an example, celebrate somebody who did the good example of culture. Celebrate them. Like, this person showed an innovative spirit, clap your hands, and continue.
If I can add something, it's about culture as well, but what you want to keep as well is the spontaneity. So you want to work with prototype, with MVPs and everything. And inevitably, when you grow and you become a scale-up, you also hire, next to your VP people, you hire a VP operation who's going to bring a process, who's going to force everyone to use Jira, who's going to, and then there is always a clash between this old culture where everybody could do a bit what they wanted as long as they worked hard, and this more corporate approach. So it's important to find the right balance between a good process that at the end of the day we cannot shoot in all directions, you have to be focused, but give the freedom to people, let them express themselves. So find the balance between process and prototyping.
Yep. So how data-driven are you with your daily operations as well as scale-ups today?
We use Jira.
That's definitely something that we had to start doing, being more metric-driven KPIs and put some KPIs on certain things, like of course in sales, but also in operational efficiency, etc. We start measuring stuff, and we start optimizing these metrics and these KPIs. But you shouldn't overdo it as well in this phase, in my opinion, because if that's what you get if you start, let's say, managing too much on the process and on the KPIs and on the metrics, you're going to lose your culture quite fast. So you have to have metrics, you have to keep an eye on them, and you have to optimize them as much as possible, but don't overdo it. That's what I would say.
Indeed, and if I may just ask something, is that if you integrate some process and so on, make sure that you do it with your people. Because when you do that, actually change management is way more smoother. But indeed, you have to stay agile. Otherwise, you will go back to what you were before. So, yeah.
So, here we are. I think are there any more questions from the startups? I would now like to suggest to turn around the energy here, and I would ask you, scale-ups, to give one advice that you would give to your best friend who has a startup. So, like the thing where you hurt your most, or the thing that you've seen. One small advice to them, and then we will wrap up the questions. So who wants to go first?
I think my main advice would be to talk a lot to a lot of people, and mainly your customers or your future customers. That's a good one. To find this sweet spot, to find your market positioning, and to keep on adjusting and rotating until you found these sweet spot. And you do that just by talking a lot. Yeah.
I would advise not to fall in the innovation trap of big corporates. So there's a lot of big corporates with innovation department. There's a project manager who still have a budget to spend. He's gonna look for a startup to spend that money, and there is no real potential. You're gonna think, we're gonna make it, but actually there's nothing at the end. It's gonna ask resource from you. So make sure that you filter your POC, that there is a potential at the end, and you just don't work for as a guinea pig for a big corporate.
I would say act on feedback and stay who you are, because you will meet a lot of people, a lot of competition. Take the feedback. It's good if there's competition, there's a market, so it's fine. But
who you are, your story, is your strength, and be convinced of that.
I would say stay passionate about what you do. As you grow, there will be a lot of work, so it's easy to get swallowed up in the work. Make sure that you take the time to just have fun, talk to your people, stay passionate about what you do, because how you act is going to scale down to everyone in the organization. And if everyone is motivated because of you, it will have more impact than you yourself that is constantly working. So just keep that passion and transmit it to your people.
There is already a lot that has been said, so it's a little bit of summary, but it's more like, yes, share your mind, because the people who are deciding to follow you through the journey, they might not know what is the value, the mission that you still have in your mind. So always make sure that you share them, because then they will get motivated and they will just follow you.
Yeah, I would say I agree with everything that was said, right? Be passionate and all the other things. But I would add spend every quarter, spend time on strategy. Right? Take the management team, take the founders team. If you're really small, take the whole company. Do an offsite, somewhere in the Bruce in the Ardennes or whatever. It doesn't matter. Just take a whiteboard and spend a weekend or at least a full day every quarter just purely on strategy. And just for everyone in the room, strategy is a very fuzzy concept, right? Some people like to say, I'm a strategic person, blah, 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 blah. But I found the best explanation for strategy in startups and scale-ups, etc., was given by a professor at Harvard, Professor Linda Applegate, and she compared it to soccer, right? So I'm back in Belgium, so everybody knows soccer. But when you have a young soccer team of young players, think a startup, and the referee blows the whistle, all the players, they converge on the ball, right? They're all running to the ball because they want to get it and start getting it in the goal. When you look at a professional soccer team, they apply strategy. So the referee whispers, and what they do is they look ahead, right? What is happening in front of the field, right? What is happening there? What is, our vision of the future, of where we need to get to? And then know very well where you are, right? Where am I on the field? Where are my players on the field? What are my strengths and weaknesses of the team, of the technology? And then apply tactics to get to that goal. So all of this is strategy, and you got to spend time every quarter on it. Like, how do you become a professional team, essentially?
I think that's the best advice you could give any one of us, even non-profit organizations and so on. So I would like to thank you, Stan, for that excellent advice, and for being here, for being our supportive coach for all these questions. I would like to thank the scale-ups for playing the game of being the older brother, and then even more women in the scale-up side than the older sister then, and the startups for being here. So now it's up to you. Like Stan said, everybody needs support, and this is your time, your moment to show some support. Go on the app. There is poll. When you go POLL, that's where you click on, and there you can click for Startup of the Year. You can also click for Scale Up of the Year, and you can of course click for the Personality of the Year. Unfortunately, it won't be Stan because he already is the Personality of the Year, so the intergalactic personality of the data world. Thank you, everybody. Let's have a break. We have like 40 minutes ahead of us for the break. Enjoy it. There is still some sun outside, so make sure you voted and go for a break. And see you later at 4:30 sharp. Thank you very much.
Applause for the entrepreneurs.